They didn't send the fleet because he was powerful. They sent it because nothing they tried had worked. Across 5 star systems, alarms began to echo in languages never meant to sound afraid. Tactical screens glowed red. Command halls filled with clicking mandibles, sharp breaths, and unease. Somewhere deep in alien space, a single human name had been flagged with the highest threat symbol the Carrion Collective possessed. Not a fleet. Not an army. One human. That should have been impossible. The war between humanity and the Carrion Collective had lasted 11 years. 11 years of orbital burns, shattered colonies, and planets reduced to silent debris. Humans had entered the stars late, clumsy, divided. The Collective believed the outcome was inevitable. Humanity would break. Humanity would kneel. They were wrong. The human they feared now had no rank, no uniform, no official record. His birth registry had been erased during the fall of Europa Station. Even among humans, most didn't know his real name anymore. They called him Calder Vale once. Now, the galaxy called him Rook. He was not the strongest soldier humanity ever produced. He wasn't genetically enhanced or cyber-perfect. He was an engineer by training. A systems failure analyst. The kind of man who noticed cracks before buildings fell. That was why he terrified them. Rook was responsible for the collapse of 3 Carrion Command nexuses. Not through firepower, but through logic. He found inefficiencies. Feedback loops. Assumptions the aliens never questioned because they had never needed to. Carrion technology was superior. Carrion thinking was not. The final insult came at Helix Gate. Helix Gate was a massive gravitational relay, an artificial corridor through folded space that allowed fleets to move instantly between systems. It was guarded, sacred, untouchable. Or so the Collective believed. Rook never fired a shot. He injected a timing paradox into the gate's navigation core, something no Carrion mind had ever simulated. Their ships emerged millisecons too early. Physics did the rest. 74 warships vanished into folded nothingness. The Collective High Conclave watched the footage in stunned silence. That was the moment they decided to kill him at any cost. Rook drifted alone in the dark, seated in the cockpit of a patched-together courier ship barely held together by weld lines and hope. The vessel was human-made, but heavily modified. Shields rerouted. Engines mismatched. Power systems layered with redundancies that looked chaotic to alien eyes. To Rook, it was beautiful. He sipped recycled water and watched sensor ghosts flicker across the screen. Long-range scans confirmed what he already knew. The fleet was real. 500 warships. Destroyers. Interdictors. Carrier hulks bristling with gravity cannons. They were spreading out, forming a net across 6 systems. "They think I'll run," Rook muttered. He tapped a command into the console. A holographic map unfolded, glowing pale blue. Human trade routes. Old mining tunnels. Dead systems written off by alien expansion charts. Places the Collective never bothered to remember. Rook remembered all of them. His wrist console chimed softly. A secure human signal. Weak. Old encryption. Someone was alive out there. "Rook, if you're hearing this," the voice crackled, tired but steady. "This is Mara Chen. We didn't believe the stories. But we saw Helix Gate." Rook closed his eyes for half a second. Mara Chen had commanded one of the last human defense flotillas. Thought dead. "We're trapped in the Ashen Belt," she continued. "Carrion patrols everywhere. Civilians aboard. We can't outrun them." Rook inhaled slowly. "How many ships?" he asked. 6. Maybe 7, if one of them doesn't fall apart first. He smiled faintly. "Good," Rook said. "That's enough." The Carrion fleet adjusted formation as new data came in. Their predictive models screamed warnings, probabilities collapsing into chaos. One anomaly should not have caused this much disruption. Yet every time Rook appeared, systems failed in ways that made no sense. A Carrion warmind spoke to the conclave through layered tones of confusion and anger. "The human is not avoiding us," it translated. He is repositioning us. The Conclave did not like that answer. They accelerated the hunt. Rook guided his ship into the Ashen Belt, a graveyard of asteroid fragments and shattered moons. Electromagnetic storms danced between rocks like ghostly lightning. Carrion sensors struggled here. Always had. Human sensors adapted. Rook's ship vanished from long-range scans. Minutes later, Mara Chen's battered flotilla detected a single friendly ping sliding into formation beside them. Her breath caught. "He's real," she whispered. Rook opened a channel. "Welcome back to the fight," he said calmly. "I'm going to need you to trust me." Mara laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "You've got 500 warships chasing you." "Yes," Rook replied. "That's the point." Far behind them, the Carrion fleet entered the Ashen Belt in force. They did not slow down. They did not adapt. And they did not yet understand that this wasn't a chase anymore. It was a lesson. And humanity was about to teach it the hard way. The Ashen Belt was not empty. It only looked that way to those who didn't understand it. To the Carrion fleet, the region appeared as a chaotic storm of debris, millions of fractured rocks spinning in unpredictable orbits, charged dust clouds blinding long-range sensors, gravity wells pulling at hulls like unseen hands. Their doctrine demanded speed and dominance. So they advanced in tight formation, shields raised, weapons hot. That was their second mistake. Rook watched them come on a shared tactical display projected across the human flotilla's bridge. Red icons bloomed across the map like spreading infection. 500 ships, one of Mara Chen's officers whispered. "That's not a hunt. That's extermination." Rook shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "That's fear pretending to be confidence." Mara studied him from the command chair. He looked nothing like the legend. No dramatic armor. No cybernetic glow. Just a tired man with sharp eyes and steady hands. "You said you needed us," she said. 6 half-broken ships against that? Explain." Rook tapped the display. The Ashen Belt shifted, revealing hidden layers of data. "This belt isn't natural," he said. "It's the remains of a moon that fractured 3 centuries ago." The Carrion catalogued it as inert debris and moved on. He zoomed in. "What they missed," Rook continued, "is that the core didn't fully disperse." The image sharpened. Beneath the spinning rubble lay massive chunks of dense matter, rich in rare isotopes. Highly conductive. Highly unstable. Mara's eyes widened. "You're saying the belt is loaded?" "Like a minefield," Rook replied. "One that reacts to energy spikes." The human ships exchanged glances. "And Carrion ships love energy," Mara finished. The Carrion fleet entered the belt at full burn. Their formation was perfect. Too perfect. Gravitic stabilizers flared as they forced order onto chaos, pushing debris aside, stabilizing paths through the storm. Their shields lit the darkness with cold blue light. And the belt answered. The first surge was subtle. A tremor in local space-time. A flicker across sensor arrays. Carrion commanders flagged it as background interference. Then the isotopes ignited. Not in an explosion. In a cascade. Energy fed energy. Shield harmonics resonated with the charged dust. Gravitic fields interfered with unstable mass pockets. One destroyer's shields overloaded. Another's engines stuttered. Then a cruiser tore itself apart as its gravity well collapsed inward. Alarms erupted across the fleet. "Reduce output," a warmind commanded. Too late. Rook leaned forward in his chair, fingers dancing across his console. He wasn't attacking them. He was tuning them. Every adjustment the Carrion made fed the reaction. Their ships were designed to dominate open space, not environments that punished excess. Human ships, by contrast, were ugly, inefficient, adaptable. Built to survive mistakes. "Now," Rook said quietly. Mara didn't hesitate. The human flotilla split apart, engines cutting to minimal thrust. They drifted, silent, letting the chaos pass through them instead of fighting it. Carrion ships were not so patient. 3 more vessels vanished in cascading implosions. The carrion fleet slowed at last, formation breaking as commanders struggled to regain control. That was when Rook sent the message. Across carrion command channels, a signal appeared. Not an attack. Not a virus. A broadcast. Rook's face filled their displays. Human. Calm. Unarmed. You came a long way for me, he said. I appreciate the effort. The Conclave tried to cut the feed. It didn't work. You sent 500 ships because you believe numbers solve problems, Rook continued. Humans learned something different. The image shifted. Tactical data overlaid the screen. Real-time losses. System failures. Predictive models collapsing into error. We learned that systems break when they assume perfection. Then the feed ended. The carrion fleet did something unprecedented. It hesitated. In that pause, the Ashen Belt claimed 8 more ships. Mara exhaled slowly. You're not trying to destroy them all. No, Rook said. I'm teaching them. She frowned. Teaching what? That hunting one human costs more than it's worth. But the collective did not rule the galaxy by retreating. A new command rippled through the fleet. A cold, final decision. They deployed the Null Spear. At the center of the fleet, a massive carrier unfolded, revealing a weapon humanity had only seen once before. A space-folding lance designed to collapse regions of space entirely. Not a bomb. An eraser. Mara's blood ran cold. That thing will tear the belt apart. Us with it. Rook stared at the display, jaw tightening. I was hoping they wouldn't do that. Do you have a plan? She asked. Rook was already moving. Not yet, he admitted. But I know how they think. He opened a new channel. Not to the carrion fleet. To humanity. Across scattered colonies, hidden stations, and refugee convoys, a signal spread. Old frequencies. Forgotten codes. A simple message. If you can hear this, now is the time. Mara watched the data flood in. Responses. Pings. Ships long thought lost. You're calling everyone, she said. Yes, Rook replied. Because this isn't about me anymore. The Null Spear began charging, bending light around it. Rook looked at the map one last time. Let's show them something they never accounted for, he said softly. Humanity doesn't fight alone. As the weapon reached critical mass, dozens of new signals ignited across the Ashen Belt. Not warships. Civilian craft. Mining rigs. Cargo haulers. Improvised vessels held together by desperation and hope. They came without orders. They came because someone finally believed they could matter. And for the first time in generations, the Carrion Collective faced something their models could not predict at all. Human choice. The Carrion Collective had rules for war. Clear chains of command. Calculated sacrifice. Perfect obedience. Every ship, every mind, a piece of a flawless machine. That was how they had conquered half the galaxy. What approached the Ashen Belt now did not fit any rule they understood. Hundreds of signals blinked into existence, old freighters, mining rigs, colony transports, medical ships with patched hulls and faded human markings. Some had weapons bolted on where cargo cranes once stood. Others had none at all. They came anyway. Inside the human flotilla, stunned silence filled the bridge. Mara Chen stared at the tactical map. These aren't military vessels. No, Rook said quietly. They are people. The new arrivals didn't form a formation. They didn't wait for orders. They drifted in clusters, linked by shared coordinates and instinct. Pilots who had never met flew side by side because the signal had said it was time. The carrion war minds struggled. Their predictive engines ran millions of simulations per second, and failed every one of them. Civilian vessels should flee. Unarmed ships should scatter. This behavior made no sense. They are disorganized, a war mind reported. Then why are they advancing? Another demanded. Because humans didn't see the battlefield the same way. Rook opened a wideband channel. You don't need to fight, he said, voice steady, carrying across dozens of ships. Just listen. The humans listened. Match my signal, Rook continued. Cut active shields. Drop to passive systems only. Let the belt do the work. Mara turned toward him sharply. That will get them killed. Only if they panic, Rook replied. Humans are very good at not panicking when everything is already broken. One by one, ships complied. Across the Ashen Belt, energy signatures vanished like dying stars. The Carrion fleet saw it and made a fatal assumption. They are surrendering, the conclave concluded. The null spear fired. Space twisted. A line of absolute distortion tore through the belt, ripping debris apart, collapsing mass into nothingness. The blast erased dozens of asteroids in an instant. But it missed its true target. Because Rook had never been where they aimed. The humans drifted, engines cold, hidden among the debris, indistinguishable from the wreckage. The null spear passed through empty space. Then the belt reacted again. The sudden removal of mass destabilized everything. Gravitational pockets collapsed. Charged dust ignited. Shockwaves rippled outward, slamming into the Carrion fleet. This time, the damage was catastrophic. Dozens of ships lost navigation. Others collided. Some tore themselves apart trying to reassert control. Mara felt her ship shudder as debris brushed past the hull. They did this to themselves, she whispered. Yes, Rook said. That's what happens when you force the universe to obey you. The Carrion commanders panicked. They issued contradictory orders. Shields up. Shields down. Fire. Hold fire. Retreat. Advance. Their perfection fractured. That was when the humans acted. Mining ships activated mass drivers, not as weapons, but as tools, redirecting debris into precise trajectories. Cargo haulers dumped containers filled with metallic scrap, creating sudden sensor ghosts. Medical ships jammed comms with emergency beacons, flooding Carrion channels with false distress calls. No single action mattered. Together, they were chaos. And chaos was something the collective had never learned to fight. Rook watched the patterns form. Now, he said softly. Mara relayed the command. Human ships ignited engines, not forward, but sideways. They didn't charge. They slid, using momentum and gravity to move unpredictably. Carrion targeting systems failed again and again. They weren't designed to track improvisation. A Carrion destroyer fired a gravity lance, and struck its own escort when the human ship it targeted wasn't where physics said it should be. Explosions lit the belt like dying suns. The Carrion fleet had lost over 100 ships. And they still hadn't touched Rook. On a forgotten relay station at the edge of human space, people gathered around flickering screens. They watched feeds captured from stolen drones and hacked sensors. They saw civilian ships standing against an armada. They saw humans refusing to disappear. For the first time in years, the galaxy wasn't watching humanity lose. The Conclave issued a final command. Eliminate the anomaly. All remaining ships. Direct engagement. The Carrion fleet surged forward. And Rook did something no one expected. He sent another message. Not to the fleet. To the Carrion people. The broadcast cut through internal channels, appearing on civilian displays, education hubs, even private terminals. Rook's face appeared again. You were told humans are reckless, he said calmly. That we destroy without reason. Behind him, live images showed human ships shielding damaged vessels. Pulling survivors from wreckage. Sharing power and oxygen between strangers. We don't fight because we love war, Rook continued. We fight because we remember each other. The feed showed Carrion ships firing into debris fields, destroying their own kind trapped inside damaged hulls. A pause. You taught your people that obedience is strength, Rook said. We learned something else. His eyes hardened. Care. The feed ended. Across the collective, something dangerous happened. Doubt. The battle did not end that day. But it changed. Carrion fire faltered. Commands slowed. Ships hesitated before firing into clusters that might contain civilians. That hesitation saved lives. Human lives. And Carrion lives too. Mara leaned back in her chair, shaking. You're turning the war inside out, she said. Rook didn't look away from the display. No, he replied. I'm reminding the galaxy that humanity doesn't disappear quietly. The ashen belt burned with wreckage and light. And far beyond it, in places no one expected, the idea spread. If one human could make an empire hesitate, what could humanity do together? Fear did not arrive with explosions. It arrived with silence. Across the ashen belt, weapons fire slowed. The wild chaos of battle faded into drifting wreckage and fractured light. Human ships regrouped instinctively, sharing power, towing damaged vessels, sealing hull breaches with whatever materials they had. The Carrion fleet did not pursue. That was new. Inside a Carrion command carrier, war minds processed impossible data. Their models no longer converged. Every projection branched into uncertainty. Human behavior could not be reduced to logic trees or probability curves. The anomaly was no longer one human. It was many. The conclave convened in emergency session. Holographic forms flickered, tall, angular silhouettes pulsing with controlled agitation. We are losing narrative control, one voice warned. Losses are unacceptable, said another. Retreat would signal weakness, a third countered. Then a quieter presence spoke. Continuing will teach them how to win. Silence followed. Rook felt it before he saw it. A shift in the enemy's posture. Subtle, but unmistakable. Carrion ships began pulling back from the densest regions of the belt. Defensive formations replaced aggressive lines. The fleet was no longer hunting. It was protecting itself. Mara Chen leaned forward. They are scared. Yes, Rook said. And that makes them dangerous. He studied incoming data. Energy spikes far beyond normal combat thresholds. They're going to burn the belt, he said. Total sterilization. Mara's jaw tightened. That will kill everyone here. Human and Carrion. And erase the story, Rook replied. They can't let this spread. The collective had always preferred annihilation to humiliation. Rook opened a channel to the assembled human ships. They're preparing a full space collapse, he said. If they fire, this region becomes a grave. A pause. Then voices answered. Not commanders. Not admirals. Pilots. Medics. Engineers. Civilians. We'll hold. We're not leaving. They won't erase us. Rook closed his eyes for a moment. Not in despair. In resolve. He initiated his final move. Not a weapon. A confession. Rook rerouted all captured Carrion data, every intercepted transmission, every experiment log, every record of erased colonies, and released it into open space. Not just to humans. To everyone. Neutral worlds. Trade alliances. Fringe species who had feared becoming the next target. The truth spread faster than any fleet. Images of destroyed human cities. Carrion camps. Enslaved populations from a dozen species. Orders signed by the conclave itself. The myth of Carrion benevolence shattered. Within minutes, independent systems began broadcasting their own responses. Condemnations. Threats. Mobilizations. The collective had ruled through fear and isolation. Rook had just broken both. The Carrion fleet fired. But not the weapon they planned. They launched a focused strike toward Rook's position. One ship. Precision over power. They wanted him gone before the message finished spreading. Mara shouted, "They've locked onto you." Rook didn't move. "I know," he said calmly. His ship surged forward, not to escape, but to intercept. Human ships reacted instantly, sliding into his path, shielding him without orders. Hulls burned. Systems failed. Still they held. The Carrion strike punched through. Rook's ship was hit. The bridge exploded in sparks. Consoles died. Gravity flickered. Mara screamed his name. Rook floated in 0G, blood drifting from a cut on his forehead. Alarms screamed warnings he no longer needed. He activated one last broadcast. His face appeared, injured, human, unafraid. "You sent an entire fleet to kill one human," he said softly. "And still, you failed." Behind him, human ships burned, but did not retreat. "You thought fear was your weapon," Rook continued. "But fear doesn't belong to empires." He smiled, just slightly. "It belongs to those who know they're wrong." The feed cut. Rook's ship drifted, lifeless. Mara stared at the silent icon on her display. "No," she whispered. Then another signal appeared. "Weak. Human." Rook's voice crackled through static. "Relax. I planned for that." Laughter broke out across human channels. Exhausted. Relieved. Alive. The carrion fleet withdrew. Not because they were defeated, but because the galaxy was watching now. And for the first time in their history, the collective understood something terrifying. Humanity had learned how to be seen. The galaxy did not erupt into celebration when the carrion fleet withdrew. It went quiet. Across hundreds of systems, ships drifted in stunned silence as feeds replayed the same images again and again. Civilian vessels standing against warships, an empire hesitating, and a single human refusing to vanish. For the first time in generations, the carrion collective had retreated without declaring victory. That alone changed everything. Rook woke to the sound of human voices. Soft. Tired. Real. He lay in a medbay that smelled faintly of metal and antiseptic. Gravity stabilized just enough to keep him grounded. His body ached in places he didn't remember injuring, but he was alive. Mara Chen stood nearby, arms crossed, eyes red from exhaustion. "You're terrible at dying," she said. Rook smiled weakly. "I practice." She shook her head, then leaned against the wall. "You realize what you did?" "I stalled them," he said. "That's all." "No," Mara replied. "You changed how the galaxy sees us." Rook sat up slowly. "That was never about being seen." "Maybe not," she said. "But it mattered." The days that followed were unlike anything humanity had known. Neutral systems opened their ports to human ships. Old trade routes lit up again. Species that had hidden on the edges of carrion space began sending messages, quiet at first, then bolder. "We saw what you did. We didn't know we could say no. We want to talk." The carrion collective issued statements filled with controlled language and hollow reassurances. They denied atrocities, blamed rogue commands, promised internal review. No one believed them anymore. The truth had escaped containment. Rook refused offers of command. He refused medals, titles, and speeches. Instead, he moved. He traveled aboard different ships, different crews, listening more than speaking. Engineers asked questions. Civilians told stories. Survivors shared names they didn't want forgotten. Rook remembered them all. Because that had always been the point. Humanity didn't win by overpowering the collective. It won by outlasting the lie. Months later, a carrion envoy requested a meeting. Neutral ground. No weapons. No fleets. Just words. Mara watched the transmission from a distance as Rook sat across from the alien representative. Tall. Composed. Uncertain. "You have destabilized galactic order," the envoy said carefully. Rook nodded. "Order built on silence deserves to fall." The envoy studied him. "You could have destroyed us." "Yes," Rook replied. "But then we'd be you." Silence stretched between them. "What does humanity want?" the envoy asked at last. Rook leaned forward. "To exist," he said. "Without asking permission." The agreement was not peace. But it was a beginning. Borders shifted. Observers were installed. Carrion fleets withdrew from occupied systems under scrutiny they had never faced before. Human colonies rebuilt, slowly, painfully, stubbornly. And everywhere, stories spread. Not about Rook alone, but about the moment fear changed sides. Years later, children on distant worlds would ask why the Carrion Collective stopped expanding. And the answer was never about a battle. It was about a choice. About a species that refused to disappear quietly. About humans who learned that unity didn't require perfection, only courage. And about one human who reminded the galaxy of something it had forgotten. That strength is not measured by how many you command, but by how many stand with you when everything is on the line.